This episode is sponsored by Circle K. Get the most savings on every gallon when you fuel with the Circle K Fleet Card. Learn more at CircleKFleetCards.com.
Hello and welcome to the State of the Fleet Industry, a weekly report produced by Automotive Fleet Magazine and which is sponsored by Circle K. I'm Mike Antich, editor of Automotive Fleet, and today I'd like to examine what's occurring in the fleet industry for the week of January 31st, 2022. So for as long as I've been in the fleet industry, the rule of thumb has been to replace fleet vehicles before the trend line for operating costs starts to exceed those of fixed costs. But what happens when you can't source replacement vehicles, as we've been experiencing for the past several years due to widespread supply chain constraints? Plus, buyer demand, both retail and fleet, continues to exceed production capacity for many high-demand models, resulting in early order cutoffs. Plus, reduced inventory on dealer lots has limited out-of-stock purchasing options. All of these factors have forced many fleets to extend vehicle service lives beyond the time a vehicle normally would have been scheduled to be replaced. With the typical fleet vehicle averaging 20 to 24,000 miles per year, a missed replacement cycle means that a vehicle normally that would have been replaced at 70,000 miles might not now be replaced until it reaches 90,000 or more miles. And as we all know from numerous operating cost studies, these higher mileage vehicles tend to have a greater frequency of maintenance issues, typically involving longer downtime due to more extensive repairs. Plus, a longer service life adds to the total life cycle cost of a vehicle because its extended odometer mileage now puts it in a position where it now has to replace key wear items such as tires and brakes. All of this has forced many fleets to adopt what's being called a fleet preservation strategy designed to mitigate the negative impact of operating higher mileage vehicles that remain in service beyond their normal replacement periods. And these fleet preservation strategies focus on strict preventative maintenance compliance, route optimization to avoid unnecessary mileage, idling restrictions to minimize engine hours, and an increased focus on driver misuse, or in worst case, driver abuse of a vehicle, which tends to accelerate vehicle wear and tear. These fleet preservation strategies are really a sign of the times because of the widespread supply chain disruptions we've all been experiencing, which has created difficulty in sourcing replacement vehicles. So let's examine each aspect of a typical fleet preservation strategy. Well, the foundation of a fleet preservation strategy is simply to enforce driver compliance, preventative maintenance schedules to decrease the incident of unscheduled repairs and as a consequence, extend vehicle longevity. And a second focus of a fleet preservation strategy is to ensure a vehicle does not operate outside of its normal parameters. And the best way to do this is to keep a laser focus on monitoring driver behavior. So ask yourself, why can one driver make a set of tires last 50,000 miles while another driver replaces tires every 20 to 30,000 miles on the same make and model of vehicle? And the same is true with other wear items such as brakes. When this occurs, it's typically the result of driver behavior, which you need to modify and monitor. The third component of a fleet preservation strategy is to reduce odometer miles and engine hours. And if your drivers follow a set route during the course of a workday, then you should focus on route optimization and minimize unnecessary mileage. And likewise, another fleet preservation strategy is to reduce unnecessary idling to minimize engine hours, which helps to avoid needless engine wear and tear. But the most important component of a fleet preservation strategy is to develop a new vehicle acquisition strategy that is designed to increase the likelihood of successfully sourcing replacement vehicles. And the most important component of a fleet acquisition strategy is to expand your sourcing options. And the best way to do so is to simplify your vehicle specifications. When you simplify your vehicle specifications in terms of vehicle color, options, or trim level, it increases the number of available models from which to consider for your selector and across a wider range of OEMs. Also, when you streamline specifications, and it's important you do this when it's appropriate and when it doesn't impact the fleet application, especially with trucks and vans, But when you do streamline vehicle specifications, it'll help expedite the upfit process and reduce order to delivery times. In the final analysis, the principles of a fleet preservation strategy are simply practicing good fleet management skills. So, with that as my final observation, I'd like to conclude my State of the Fleet Industry presentation for the week of January 31st, 2022. And I'd like to thank you for watching.